Well, here we are, recording another episode of Top Tier. We were here at Richie's house. Me and Lorenzo drove through the middle of a blizzard to come here, and
Talk about a game that's not even that
good. Well, we'll get to that. But some of our Redditor listeners might call this a comfy podcast because, well, at least to us, because it's snowing outside. I got a nice cup of coffee to help me relax.
The last time we came over, it was snowing too.
That's true.
The Sephiroth.
Yeah, that's when we saw the Sephiroth reveal trailer.
No,
the Sakurai talks.
Oh, the Sakurai talks.
You
That's
fucking
that's
piece of
right.
shit.
Okay. I don't. Are we allowed to curse on this podcast?
This is your channel.
YouTube won't allow it, so but
Okay.
does Joey allow it? Is the important.
I mean, if
question.
your 10 views are gonna get offended by it, then sure thing.
You know, yeah,
buddy.
we'll keep it to a minimum, but yeah, whatever.
Until we start yelling at each
So
other for the
today
story.
we're gonna be talking about a.
Whoa! Hold on.
You're not the host.
First of all, let's introduce ourselves so the people know our names. There's a lot of power in names,
Yeah,
my
because
friend.
it's been a year since the last one, so.
My name is Joey, and I'm joined here with my two friends Richie and Lorenzo.
Wow, he called me a friend and not a roommate.
He said that he say the opposite whenever he.
No, I'm saying like I'm surprised that he said that.
So we're here to talk about. Well, I was gonna say the first game we played during 2021, but that doesn't hold true for Richie.
Definitely
This was
not.
That's not true for me either.
oh
The first game you played.
okay. This is the first game I've played in 2021.
Lorenzo and I got it the same day.
I got it for Christmas. We're talking
We went
about
together.
Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity. This is going to be interesting because I'm talking from the experience of somebody who played. This is my first, I guess, Dynasty Warriors, let alone like Hyrule Warriors game. You two have played the original.
I
on
have not
Wii
played
U.
the original.
You have not
You've
played
not.
the original.
This is my first.
I thought you did.
No, I didn't.
Oh, I
Okay.
played the original. I wasn't the biggest fan of it when it came out. I find the Warriors combat system, while fun for a set amount of time, I do find it to get kind of repetitive, and it's not really inherently in its combat system. I actually quite like it. It's more so how the combat system relates to the enemies you fight. I feel the enemies are very, what's the word I'm looking for? Repetitive. Like,
Yeah.
even though design-wise they're very distinct, and I appreciate that, the way you go about fighting them is the exact same way you'd fight any other enemy, and that's sort of always been my issue with those Warriors style games. That's why it's like when I saw Fire Emblem Warriors, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna get it. But what intrigued me with Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity was its story. I felt that its story, at first thinking it was canon, but we'll get to that. That was sort of the intrigue with it. I was hoping I'd be riveted by a good story, even if the gameplay was kind of meh.
Yeah, I guess we can start off there. Excuse me. Our initial impressions on the game when it was first announced. It was announced, I don't know specifically when, but last year during a direct.
No, it was just by itself.
By itself?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
last year they started just dropping trailers randomly.
Aonuma,
yeah.
It was in
Aonuma
September.
Aonuma just came out and said, "Oh yeah, we're making this is this year's Zelda game."
That's right. And then they went into depth in a direct, right? Didn't they?
No.
They didn't do that?
No,
It was
they-
never in a
They
direct.
did that with the original Hyrule
They
Warriors.
don't do directs anymore, Joey. Where have you been?
It's over.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, it was advertised as a prequel to Breath of the Wild.
You're really driving in this point.
Yeah, it was, because this is going to be a big topic of conversation. I know it. It was advertised as a prequel to Breath of the Wild, and everything we saw in the trailers really seemed to nail that in. And it really seemed like this was going to be the canon prequel to Breath of the Wild.
It was gonna be, as I refer to it, the crisis core of
Yeah.
Zelda, where we know what's gonna happen. It's gonna have a tragic ending, but you're very intrigued to see that tragic ending play out, because in Breath of the Wild, while we very much know of its existence, we don't really get to see it happen, and that's sort of what I feel the intrigue was with this title.
There's a lot of potential here, because if you'd played Breath of the Wild and you visit those flashback scenes, their purpose is to serve as, besides a flashback, it's supposed to show Hyrule 100 years prior to the Calamity. But in Breath of the Wild, all the areas they show don't really look like areas that are like pre-Calamity. Like they still look like how they do 100 years later. I can go there during gameplay and go to those areas and they won't have changed a lot. I really think this was a good opportunity to build on Hyrule's past a lot more, make the scenery look different. It's kind of like in Star Wars how in the prequels, like everything is like so like, you know, you have like these huge cities, you have like obviously it looks more advanced than it does in the original trilogy, and then in the original trilogy I mean, obviously the original trilogy came before the prequel, but besides that, still built probably with the same idea in mind. You still have this world that looks like it has been impacted by the Empire.
It's been lived in.
Yes, it's been lived in. Exactly.
And yeah, I agree. That's one of my praises of the game. I think a lot of the scenery is great. Like there's this one area in particular, forgive me, I can't remember the exact location, but actually, I think it's the Great Plateau, if I'm not mistaken. There's this really cool, not the part where you fight in the Temple of Time and all that. Like that was a cool reference, but I actually really like this sort of area. There's like a Sheikah Tower you take to get to that part of the beginning of Breath of the Wild, to get to the Shrine of Resurrection. And that area before you get there, there's like this sort of collapsed ruins
of a
battlefield.
Do you mean Age of Calamity or Breath of the Wild?
In Age of Calamity.
Okay.
Like in Age of Calamity, like I actually kind of like the scenery in a lot of locations. I felt that a lot of the lands were just so fun to kind of just go around in. So really the scenery I personally enjoyed, but I also can see the sort of complaint that it doesn't look different enough from what happens 100 years later. Granted, a lot of things are not as collapsed, like it's just everything is, you know, built because the Calamity didn't quite happen yet, but I could see that being a complaint. It doesn't really distinct itself from what would happen 100 years later, but I didn't really personally take issue in that. I actually thought that some of the areas were really, really sweet.
Anything you gotta say, Lorenzo?
Nope.
No, nothing.
Yeah,
I just thought it was
I have
nice
a knife to his head.
Seeing a lot of like the scenery of like how, well, pretty much the exact same you said, like in a lot of places that weren't in Breath of the Wild, like Lon Ranch, like was just mostly a ruined area in Breath of the Wild. But seeing it as like a full place.
Yep.
Now it's like the first time we're seeing it in this Zelda verse or whatever.
The Breath of the Wild verse.
The Breath of the Wild verse.
If we can even call it that.
We'll get to that.
Yeah,
we'll get to that.
Should we just skip to that right now?
No. I actually have something still regarding like the landscape. When I said like a lot of the places in Breath of the Wild don't look as different as they did 100 years ago, I was thinking more so like the Yiga. You have like the Yiga hideout. Specifically, there's a flashback in Breath of the Wild of like that oasis area, oasis town in like the Gerudo Valley, and it's a flashback with Zelda and Urbosa, and it looks like completely unchanged as it does in Breath of the Wild, and it doesn't look much different in Hyrule Warriors either. So I feel like in those areas they could have, you know, maybe added like, you know, townspeople. Also for like a calamity, like a horrible destruction. When I think of that, I think of like how it affects. This isn't like a bad remark on the game. I just think it would have been a really neat addition. You don't really see any like Hyrulean, or like really any civilians in Hyrule.
I think that's
affected by this place. You know.
You mean in Breath of the Wild?
In both games.
Well, I think in Breath of the Wild.
But in Breath of the Wild, like maybe not so Breath of the Wild, because there are people who are affected by it.
Mr. Iwata NPC walking around. I love that guy.
Also, it's been 100 years since it happened. I'm sure like
that's a good point.
Places like Gerudo Town, like they've like
moved on.
They've rebuilt their stuff.
Yeah. I agree with you on having civilians be in Age of Calamity, because if this game went the direction I wish it went, I think it would have hammered home that dark point. What if, as you're fighting all these Bokoblins and Moblins and everything, what if while you're doing that, you're seeing like in the background these civilians like coming out of their home, and like the Moblins are like hitting them, and like they die like the Hylian soldier NPCs. I mean, that would have really hammered what I feel this game should have went, the direction I feel this game should have went in home. I feel if the game went in the direction I wish it did, having that sort of civilian aspect would have really helped Hyrule feel a lot more alive. And even though they didn't go that direction, I still think that would have made Hyrule feel more alive. Granted, I feel if we put any more NPCs,
it would ruin the frame rate.
It would,
even
like
more.
my Switch would explode, of course.
That's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
When you
but,
said
like-
that, I'm like, ooh, this is like...
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be in the. It could just be like a cutscene or something. Like
I guess.
you don't even need that many like models to do that.
See, like besides the Hylian soldiers, like when we're in the castle and everything, I don't think we even see a single. Not that there'd be civilians in the castle. But
No, like maids or butlers.
we don't really
and stuff
see
like that.
anybody that's not a soldier or just the main cast. But
I imagine it would have been like evacuated.
yeah, it probably would have been. But either way, I guess speaking of the main cast, would you like to delve into the main cast
No.
or like the cast of characters you can play as?
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
I want to know, do you know of all the characters in the game?
Yeah.
Yes, and I was gonna put away the game forever and never play it again, but then I saw that spoiler.
I'm gonna
you
put
can
I'm gonna
play.
put a disclaimer at the beginning of the.
Oh,
I'm gonna
okay.
do that
All
for
right.
all of our videos.
I saw a spoiler you could play as what is the, I'm gonna say it, coolest Ganondorf design we've ever seen in a Zelda game. Oh my god. I feel like we should have prefaced this before, but like we all are Zelda fans, massive Zelda fans. And so yeah, saying that 12 minutes in. But either way, seeing that you could play as that Ganon, the coolest Ganon in the game, I was like, oh, now I gotta play more. Now I gotta.
It's weird. You call him Ganondorf, and that's exactly what I thought. Like his name thing was gonna say, like the little like
But it just says
over his help.
Ganon,
It says Ganon.
Calamity Ganon.
It's Calamity Ganon.
Well,
Oh, that's right. It
yeah.
is. Yeah. But like it's so true. It's like that is like the closest to like Calamity Ganondorf that
Yeah,
we've seen.
I think Ganondorf we're gonna get in Breath of the Wild too. He's
I
gonna be
think-
like that weird shriveled prune in the trailer.
I think so. That's like the big theory that's been going around. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly.
I think this is gonna be kind of controversial because I did find the cast in the original Hyrule Warriors to be fun, but pre DLC, I'll say pre DLC, pre definitive edition, pre the 3DS Legends edition. I really only played through the Wii U version, and because I didn't really enjoy that game that much, I didn't buy the 3DS nor the Switch versions, because like, I mean, cool, Skull Kid is playable in it, that's awesome, but like, I don't know, it just didn't feel like enough to entice me to buy a game that, in general, I wasn't really a huge fan of. And I'll explain why I wasn't really a huge fan of that game, probably throughout this review, because part of my complaints with that game ring true with this one too, but we'll get to that. But I absolutely enjoyed the cast in this game. I felt everybody felt unique. Everyone felt like, at the very least, like, to quote Chris O'Neill, if you will, like, even though you're not doing much with the buttons, the game does a good job making you feel like you're doing something.
He's
with how
quoting
well
Oni-
animated and flowy they are.
He's quoting Oni NG.
Yep,
for those
quoting
who don't-
Oni and
yeah.
G from the Avengers playthrough. But like, I really appreciated that because they could have easily fell into the trap of, all right, we got, and again, spoilers, we got Mifa and Sidon, both Zoras. Like, you could easily kind of copy-paste a lot of their movesets. Other games would have probably gone that route, but the game doesn't. The game does a great job making characters, even ones that are of the same species and everything, feel so distinct from one another. And I especially enjoyed playing as... I enjoyed playing as Mifa. I loved playing as Sidon. I loved playing as Teba. That was a surprise. I didn't think... Teba was like my favorite Rito from Breath of the Wild. I loved like going up to his archery range and everything like that. So to see him in this game was so cool. And he may not be my favorite character to play as. Like, if you were to say my main, it probably wouldn't be Teba, but he does have, hands down, my favorite move in the game, charging up the arrows and then just going boom, and it like rains bombs everywhere. Oh, it's so cool. I love that. I love that technique. But I think that Tecmo did a great job implementing these characters in a way that feels unique, that feels different. Everybody feels different from one another. And it's an overall really great cast. It was a lot more than I was expecting, except Hetsu. But I didn't say that.
I feel like a lot of the characters, like, it's good that we got like a lot of like mainstay characters.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they introduced, we'll get to the future characters, but like how they introduced like those characters and brought them into, and like some oddball characters like the Great Fairies or the monk. I thought it was a really smart decision.
Yeah.
I feel like they all, like, I mean, not all of them played great. The fairies were okay.
The fairies
They were huge. There were a bunch of characters that I thought were going to be playable. There was a couple, But I figured they're probably saving that for DLC that might gonna get soon because Zelda's 35. But of the cast we got, I felt there was like a lot more than we were expecting, and I liked it.
Oh yeah, like I'm gonna be real. My first impressions of the game, I thought this was such a stupid assumption, but I thought we had the roster. I thought it was gonna be Link, Zelda, the champions, and Impa. I thought that was what the whole roster was gonna be, and I could tell you I was pleasantly surprised.
Lorenzo actually, when he was playing the game, we were in a call in our group chat, and he asked me what I thought the other characters in the game were going to be.
This is after I knew all the characters.
Yeah, this is after he knew all the characters. And I told him Link, Zelda. I told him all the ones that were initially shown in like trailers and stuff.
Yeah, the 7.
Yeah, the first 7. And then I told him, he was like, all right, guess the other ones. I said King Rome, and I'm pretty sure that is the only one I got right. I think I said like Beetle. I think I said
Beetle. Beetle.
He wasn't even in the first Hyrule Warriors.
He wasn't even in the.
I was like, I mean, they put Skull Kid in.
Yeah, but that's like a very important character.
Hey,
Yeah, so-
hey, Majora's Mask
So is
is
Beetle.
in Breath of the Wild. You can't equip Majora's Mask in Breath of the
can.
Wild. Just saying, it's canon.
Is that DLC? No, it's
That's
not
not
DLC.
It is DLC. It is
Yeah,
DLC.
oh, it is DLC.
It makes monsters not see you or something.
I don't even think I get. I think I guessed Ganondorf. Did I?
I think you said that.
I think I did.
I think you said like also maybe the robot.
I think if you were to
Yeah.
ask me who would be one Seeker character, I'm like, it's probably going to be canon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought. I'm actually surprised. Like, I think my least favorite character in that game might be Robbie because he doesn't do anything. Because like he's there with Purah. Yeah, he's there with Purah. But like I thought he was gonna be a playable character, and he only shows up like a couple times. He's just there with Purah.
They help with the robot, try to figure out why it's here.
Yeah, but Purah's the one like doing all the
I
work.
agree. I think Robbie was there just so that the fans could have an moment when he did the bam
Yeah.
pose thing. I think that was really his only, purpose.
I thought he was gonna be playable.
I didn't think he'd be playable because if he was playable, then why wouldn't Purah be? And they're already very similar themselves. just in terms of,
Exactly.
like-
That's
I
a
was
good
so
point.
sure Purah was going to be playable.
I
I was so
I
sure
thought they
it was
both
gonna
were
happen.
because I knew how big like the roster in the original Hyrule Warriors was, so I thought we were gonna get like a whole lot more characters than we
Yeah.
did, or maybe like 3 or 4
And if you could
more.
show me freaking Ravio mowing down mountains of enemies, then I'm pretty sure you can make Purah.
And Tingle.
And
Tingle,
Beetle.
yeah, let's not forget Tingle.
They
Or
could've done-
Agatha.
They could do Beetle.
Yeah. Well, because when I thought that, like, this was when we had the original 7 characters that were, like, revealed before. I didn't think it was like, okay, that's kind of weird if they have, like, 2 characters that look the same that already are part of a race with Impa, the Sheikah, Purah, and Impa are already sisters anyway. So that was kind of felt weird to me if that was going to be a
Yeah.
thing. But I thought that, like, other characters like Astor was going to be playable, too, as, like, post-game.
Very disappointed we didn't
Wait,
see the baby.
who's asked?
The wizard.
The wizard guy. The wizard guy, like he's a very forgettable villain.
Oh,
That
the guy. That's right. The guy who's like basically the main villain.
The guy who pretty much is the reason that I don't like this game that much. But like, I shouldn't say don't like it, but like, yeah, I was sure he was going to be playable too.
Yeah. I thought, we knew Koga was going to be playable.
I thought, oh yeah, I did say that.
was
I
like
knew
an
I knew
obvious one.
Koga.
But I thought Suga, the new guy.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I thought he could've been playable,
I thought
too.
Suga was going to be playable as well. I 100% agree with you. That was my theory. But yeah, overall, I'd say all 3 of us agree that the cast plays, functions, and feels pretty well. We all like them.
They also did a great job with like not in terms of like gameplay, but like story and gameplay combined with like some characters to make them more fleshed out, like Koga.
Yep.
Because in the first Breath of the Wild, when I saw the acclaimed, I thought they were really cool. But then when I saw Koga, I was like, oh.
It wasn't until this game. Yeah, it wasn't until this game where I finally concluded Mifa is my favorite champion. There was one moment in this game's story, and we'll get to the story, but there's one moment with Mifa that I just adored. It's my favorite moment in the entire game, and I was talking to Lorenzo about it like a few weeks ago, and it was the part where she's with Prince Sidon, and she kind of congratulates him on like how great a warrior he has become and everything like that, and you see Prince Sidon get all choked up and everything. I was like, that was great.
I really liked that scene too,
yeah.
because it's not just like, because for the other, like I call them like future champions or new champions, like they don't really mean, like the new champions don't really mean much to the old ones.
Yeah.
Like Yunobo and
Raju
are just like descendants, and Teba just adores like Rivali. But for Sidon, this is like his sister, so like she doesn't know that she dies.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know that Sidon had to go through that and grow up without her older sister. So her saying that just makes it...
It just... It was great. And last thing I guess we'll say on the characters section, I'm apparently the only person I know that likes to play as Raju. I think she is freaking sick.
You mean Riju?
Riju? Is it Riju? Did I say
Riju.
Raju? I meant Riju. My bad. Riju.
Yeah, I don't like playing Richie.
Neither do I.
Come on, she's so fun. That one move where you're like on Priscilla.
Patricia.
Patricia?
Wait, is it Patricia?
Patricia, you and these names, bro.
Yeah, man, jeez. Raju and Priscilla, but Riju and Patricia, like that one move where I don't even remember the combos in order to activate it, but like where she's just riding and it's just boom, boom, thunder's going everywhere. Like that's so sick.
Like I really like the concept for her, like riding. No, I forgot her name.
Patricia.
I almost said Priscilla. I really like it. It kind of reminded me of when we first saw Bowser Jr. in Smash, and he had like the cart that was very unique. It was like it just kind of felt like that, and like I liked how that was like her main difference from Urbosa. But I just felt like gameplay wise, I wasn't like. It didn't feel like I was hitting many people.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
I don't know.
It's like
I
like with Urbosa and like so of the other characters. Well, most of the other characters. Whenever I get like really far into a combo and they do that finisher, it just feels like you really fucking had an impact.
Like with the Rook, you just
my favorite move with Urbosa is the one where you're just doing I have to like get up to demonstrate it, but like the one where she's just like boom, boom.
Yeah, she's just continuously
she's
turning
just
around.
and everything.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I did actually get up to do that for podcast people.
Another
for everyone watching
with, like,
at
the
home.
Characters like there's only two characters that have like alternate playstyles, being Link and Zelda later on in the story.
Yeah.
But like
I like Zelda's alternate
there's also
playstyle.
Rivali if
So
you
much
want to take
better.
into account like how you can make him fly.
I played as
mean,
Rivali
like-
once and never again. I hate that guy. Oh,
I mean, like
my
alternate
God.
in terms of like you give them a different item,
Oh,
and they'll
okay.
have a different play style.
Yeah.
Which I guess making it more for other characters would have been like hard, and I get that. But I feel like there should have been more costumes for other characters.
I agree. I 100%
Because
agree.
here's the thing: when you beat the game with Zelda, or beat the game in general, Zelda's only costumes are her like dress and her winter outfit. You can't play as her champion's outfit anymore. That's
Really?
That's really weird. You
I
can't-
never
really
I never
like
That's
no
like-
shit. You quit after you
No,
beat the
no,
game, so you don't know.
To be honest, I
like my
seriously thought
favorite.
Link was the only one with costumes. I never bothered to look
No,
at
the champions
The
have costumes.
champions, they
champions
get
have
like
costumes.
a
They just take
little
off their blue
thing.
They just take
That's
off their
it?
blue. Yeah.
They have like a little blue thing.
I kind of
Okay.
wanted more in terms of costumes, but I guess that, like there's no like.
Oh,
What costume can you give for Calamity Ganon?
you want to know why I
Or-
probably didn't know
You
that?
could give him I mean, I think you can go wacky at that point. Just give him a Twilight Princess skin. Give him a freaking
Yeah.
I
ocarina
mean, you already
skin.
got that in like the original Hyrule.
Yeah, so bring it back.
Yeah.
Bring it back.
I think I didn't know you can change the others' costumes because I tried to do it before they became the champions, before they actually got that. So when I clicked on like Mifa's costume, it said like she doesn't have any alternate costumes, and I thought that was just it. I didn't know that. So that's that mystery solved.
I guess one last thing before we get to the big boy topic.
Yeah.
My
The
favorite,
frame rate.
Oh boy.
My favorite, I mean, yeah, it has to be. My favorite aspect of this game was probably, like, other than, it's kind of a tie between, playing as the, yeah, you know what? My favorite aspect of the game was 100% the music. I
Yeah.
thought the music was phenomenal throughout the entire thing. Like, hearing these more, because one of my minor nitpicks, if you will, about Breath of the Wild is while it has an amazing soundtrack, I have the controversial opinion that it's, I think, one of the weaker Zelda soundtracks compared to the rest of the
Of
series.
Breath of the Wild.
I think Breath of the Wild is
Okay.
one of the weaker soundtracks
I thought it doesn't
compared to
really-
the rest of Zelda.
I-
But that's because it's more atmospheric.
That's what
I
I was gonna
understand.
say.
I understand why, though. I think it's because it's more atmospheric. However, it's like Nolan movie soundtracks, if you will.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
can
I was just
only
like, yeah, go on.
really-
Sorry.
I can only really listen to them and enjoy them at their fullest when I'm watching the film or the thing it came from. I can't be in my car and listen. Well, that's not entirely true, but
At
it's
that- at
not
that point,
as,
it's just like a-
I can't be in my car
Yeah,
or
yeah.
have headphones on or whatever I'm doing, listening to the music. It's not as exciting as, let's say, listening to Majora's Mask soundtrack or Twilight Princess's soundtrack. And so, while I do really love the Breath of the Wild soundtrack, I really feel that I enjoy it at its most when it's being played with the game, and that's not the game's fault, of course. Like that, if anything, that only proves the music succeeds at its job.
That whole game was built around like exploration and
Yep,
the world,
yep.
so it's no wonder like that's what they had in mind with the music.
Exactly, and so I'm not saying that as a criticism of the game. What I appreciated about Hyrule Warriors is that it took those songs, a lot of those songs, and made them where I can now listen to my car and jam out to freaking Mifa's theme, this upbeat orchestration of Mifa's theme. But the music was most definitely my favorite aspect of this game.
My favorite moment of like playing, where I realized I was having a lot of fun, was like discovering characters' combos and stuff. And my favorite one was when you do like the training challenges, and I play as Link, and you get the one where you get the two-handed swords, and I discovered that you can like extend your combos by like destroying some of your health. I feel like at that point I was kind of like, that was my favorite moment of like playing it, because I got really excited. I was like, "Yo, let's go!" I kept doing it, and I was discovering new stuff.
See, Mifa is like my favorite character in that game, and I felt her playstyle was kind of limited in a way. I was like, at first, I was like, she feels like I'm only using sort of the same type of moves. Then I don't know what I did. I have no idea what I did. But I found this combo late game that I've never used with her, and it was like this epic combo where she does like this side spin with the trident and lands like boom, like Percy Jackson with the trident.
Oh yeah,
and I was like, when she did that, I was like, like everything changed when that happened. I thought that's like one of my favorite combos in the game, so I know exactly what you mean, where it's like when you find out these things, you get sort of a new excitement.
I like how all the characters have like a special attribute or like a special ability. Like with Yunobo, it's like he can change like certain types of moves he has, where the
steak or the meat, right?
With the meat, and like just the circle, whatever it's called, the protection.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Impa's like a Naruto character. She can create shadow clones. Sidon has like rhythm to it, great. Where you can like do bonus attacks if you time it right. I feel like all that was great in making all the characters have a little bit of uniqueness that you can use like throughout the game as well.
Are you ready?
Let's
boy.
get into this.
Okay.
So now we're getting into that thing we've kept saying we're going to get into it later. Well, it is later now.
So I guess I'm the middle ground, and I think it's his channel. You said, right?
No,
So,
I said it's on my channel, yes, but it's our podcast. I wasn't even going to say my opinion yet. I was just going to say I think this is a great opportunity to talk about the story, because all three of us, we really
part of the review.
Yeah, no, not just that, but like
I'm joking.
The three of us really we like to get invested in a game's story, and you know there are some people, and not that this is a bad thing, but they might not want to get invested in the story. They might just want to play a game to just chill out and relax.
And this is very much a chill out game.
Exactly.
Right? Where it's like
that's
a
what I was gonna say.
Hack and slash type of thing.
And I felt that like a big like driving point for like I don't know how to say commercial for Nintendo like putting out this game is like, oh, there's a story element to it. This is related. This is canon to Breath of the Wild.
Right.
As
That's
opposed
what
to,
got us all three of us excited.
As opposed to original Hyrule Warriors, where it's like, oh, this is just like
kind of mindless.
This is a big celebration of Zelda.
Yeah.
So we, as we've said before, Richie is kind of our middle ground. Lorenzo, why don't you start us off here with what you were going to say?
Okay, so I think we should start by saying that no, this is not a prequel to Breath of the Wild, technically, because it involves time travel.
Right.
So it's a whole alternate timeline.
Yeah, also, the whole ending debunks it if you think about it.
Well, yeah, of course. This is now an alternate timeline in the Breath of the Wild canon, or this, how this works out.
Yeah.
So just by like, I feel like a lot of problem that you have, and maybe you, is the fact this wasn't told. Like you expected, the crisis core of Breath of the Wild, and that was kind of disappointing. And I can get that, but like I understand, but like I feel like part of it is like, okay, we kind of know exactly if that was the case, we would know what was going on. And they can't really say that. They can't really be like, oh, what would happen that many years prior if we could change the past, if they said that in like pre-release. So I understand why they kind of had to kind of like lie and say this isn't exactly what happened 100 years ago. But I feel like if you just take it for what it is, I feel like it's much better. And I don't know at what point did you realize, Joey, that this wasn't really gonna be the same story as what happened 100 years ago, that this was diverged?
I can't wait to answer that question.
I had my suspicions because I was only like 20 hours or so in.
Yeah.
And then the attack on Hyrule Castle started happening, and the divine beast started to get activated. And I was like, okay, this is interesting, because this game cannot only be 20 hours long. Like I've seen people spend like hundreds of hours in a Warriors game.
That's different though.
No, yeah, but then I was like, okay, maybe this isn't the attack. Maybe this is something else. And then the first divine beast I went to was Mifa's, and Sidon showed up. I was like, what the hell is this?
That was we all first went to Mifa first just because we wanted to save her.
I did Mifa first because of that, and also because I wanted to do it in the same order you meet the champions originally.
Yeah, well, that's...
Oh wait, yeah, you can choose that too. Damn it! So I chose Mifa first.
Yeah, I always
But I was like, wait a minute, what the hell is this? As soon as that happened, I was just playing the game for it to be over. To be completely honest, I really was expecting this to be like, okay, someone can play this game and then go into Breath of the Wild knowing exactly what happens, because of the expectation of like, okay, we're gonna see like Hyrule in more depth. We're gonna see a Hyrule 100 years in the past. And I think that's going to be really cool. There's going to be these new characters. Maybe they're going to be like these great, awesome characters who we get attached to when they die. It's like we've been saying, like the crisis core of Breath of the Wild, where like, okay, these characters aren't in Breath of the Wild, so something bad is going to happen to them, and they're mostly likely going to die, or they're going to disappear somehow. Mm-hmm. And I think that would have been a lot more interesting than, the champions of Breath of the Wild go back in time, and now they're there to help save Hyrule of the past. Richie knows this, but like when it comes to like time traveling, alternate universe stuff in stories, I kind of go in with like expecting not to like it, because if I expect not to like it and it ends up being really good, I appreciate it even more.
It's just a trope you're not a big fan of.
It's not like a horrible, like, oh god, alternate universe shit. Get this fucking Rick and Morty reference out of here. Come on. But like I go in just like, oh, okay, this is the same character from an alternate universe, because like it's been done a lot in like pop culture and stuff. But like it's like I said, like if I go into it with that mindset of, okay, this has been done before, I'm not expecting much out of it, and then it really like hits home, and it really does like a good job of like taking advantage of that where no one else has done something of that caliber before. I really appreciate it more, because it shows there's still things of that aspect that can be explored and molded from it. But this was not the case, because it was as simple as they go back in time, save the day, and go back home. And it's not really an original concept. It wasn't really that like inspiring or amazing. And I get people can say like, oh well, it's a Dynasty Warriors game, so the focus is on the gameplay. But when you have a game that is the prequel, or advertised as the prequel to a mostly narrative driven game like Breath of the Wild.
On top of that, they marketed it as this is what happened 100 years ago.
And then it ends up not even being canon to that game. I'm just kind of let down in a lot more aspects.
I 100%.
Yeah.
I see that. And I agree with all your points from your point of view, but for me, and I'm not trying to like, I don't want to come off as braggy when I say this, but I felt like as the game started, I knew it was going to be an alternate timeline thing. Because, and I told Richie this the day of. Because here's the thing. The beginning of the game starts off with what actually happened 100 years ago. Zelda and Link holding off the Calamity or whatever. And you see Terraco, the little robot, go back in time, right? And so he's back in the past. And I'm like, oh, this guy can time travel. Maybe he knows what happened in the future. They can go prevent it. And I told Richie this the day after I started playing, when we went to go film at your house. And I whispered to him, because I didn't want you to hear. I was like, yo, this little robot guy went to the past, so that technically means anything that happens with the robot is an alternate timeline. Because once that change happens, they're not, Link and Zelda and whatever aren't doing what they were doing before. Because now they see this robot. Okay, they're going to go get this robot. They're going to go find out what's in this robot. And whatever leads to the robot leads to a new timeline. So I already felt that, like, okay, this is probably going to be a timeline where because of this robot, they end up stopping the Calamity.
But did you expect, like, Sidon and, like, all the other future champions, I guess, to
I
come
didn't
back?
expect that to happen. But I was mostly, like, I liked it. Because I felt like I already knew there was a time travel element. And after the attack on Hyrule Castle, when the little robot guy shot his little things up in the air, I kind of knew. I felt like, okay, this is really looking to see like it's going to be the end, as if it was supposed to happen 100 years ago. But once that robot happened, I'm like, okay, this is the change. Once robot shot those 4 beams, I'm like, okay, this is how he saves Hyrule. I didn't know that meant the new champions would come. I saw they went in 4 directions. I'm like, okay, they're going to the 4, like Urbosa, Rivali, or whatever. I didn't see that was going to be the case, but I felt early on this is going to be an alternate timeline, which is kind of why I wasn't as disappointed as you were, because I already had that mindset as I was playing.
Okay. I see.
Okay.
Now
So,
Richie is the middle ground
to
here.
answer your question, I knew it was an alternate timeline. I won't say I knew for sure it was an alternate timeline right at the beginning, but when I knew something was fishy, because I even said it to you guys in a call we had, I knew something was fishy right when freaking the time travel robot Teniko?
Terraco.
Dang it. What is it with these names of the new characters?
Because you're like, I'm beating it, I forget all that information.
Yeah. Raju, Priscilla, and Taniko,
And then
and
you got
Tifo. Like, I knew something was fishy when that darn little robot came in, and I just, they're not going to introduce a concept right at the beginning to not have it play of dire importance later on. There's a reason why, like, toward the beginning of Ocarina, when you're going to the castle, you see Ganondorf with Zelda throwing the ocarina into the water. Obviously, these things are planted in any story, or these things are planted so that they get rewarded in the future. You're rewarded for paying attention to those details throughout the story. That's how good stories are pretty much formulated by. So I knew something was going to happen time travel-wise. I just didn't know quite what. And I'm not going to lie, when I saw Sidon and everybody appear, I really didn't like it. I liked playing as them a ton. See, that's where the pull was. That's where I felt very in the middle of all this, because I hated what it did narratively, but I loved playing as them. It was like the gameplay. I loved playing as Sidon. I did not really like playing as Yunobo, being honest. I loved playing as Teba, and I loved playing as Raju, canonically. That's her real name. And that's where my push and pull was. I hated what it did to the story. Loved playing as them. But, my gameplay gripes were, while I did like playing as them, I was very disappointed with how it felt fighting the enemies. I feel like the enemy gameplay was really repetitive and boring. A quick tangent, I've never rolled my eyes more at a game than every single time I did a thing where it was like, oh no, these monsters came, and we gotta fight them now.
Are you talking about how specifically you fight the blights like 3 different times?
Oh my god, you fight the blights 3 different times. Like, missions never end.
Nope.
The missions never end. Like the missions, you can cut them in half, and I'd enjoy them so much more.
I wanted to talk...
Oh my god. But back to story. I was enjoying the story up until the time travel aspect because, yeah, I'm going to be honest. I went into it expecting it to be the Crisis Core of Zelda, and that's 100% what I wanted. And I didn't get what I want. And that's what sort of disappointed me. I didn't... Because even though I didn't get what I want, what I got instead was aggravating, to say the least. It was aggravating because... Now, yes, while we did know what happened to these characters, and we do know from playing Breath of the Wild that they quote-unquote didn't get they got the Death Star plans but died trying, I wish we got to see that. I wish we got to see the pain of that moment. I wish perhaps have the time travel be an aspect in the game, have the robot be there to give the player hope that, maybe we could save them. Maybe that there's something we can do. Maybe we can make an alternate timeline just to have them fail all the same. Perhaps make that emotion hit even harder if the robot, while being there, gives them a chance of like, oh my god, if this... Because remember the scene where the villain Alistar. Astor. Dang it. That's a Pokemon. That's Pokemon. Astor. Yeah.
Alistar's a more like realistic,
this is like
memorable name.
The Richie Gets Dementia podcast.
Yeah.
But whatchamacallit? Astor. There's a scene in the beginning of the game where he is pretty much seeing the future. Like he's saying, "Oh, Ganon's gonna come at this time, and this is what's gonna happen. I know exactly what's gonna happen." And I think it would have been really clever if they had a duality with that, where this robot, obviously coming from the future, who I'm gonna name Tommy now because I'll never get the name right. So Tommy, right? So Tommy is obviously from the future. He knows what happens, and I wish that they saw the future. Zelda sees the future and everything like that, and tries to prevent that timeline from happening, yet fails all the same. I felt that would have hammered home even more emotions, because now you as the player are trying to prevent this timeline from happening. And the characters as well with you are trying to prevent that timeline from happening. Just to have them fail all the same, I felt that would have hit so much harder. I'm going to be real, I'm going to be 100% honest. I feel Nintendo, Tecmo, whoever it was, I feel they really wussed out on the ending. I think that they were too scared to tell a story that was dark, that was gritty, that was quite the different tone from Zelda, because Zelda's always danced around the dark kind of thing. I mean, with Majora's Mask, I think they went full on dark with that, but other than sort of Majora's Mask, while Breath of the Wild had a dark premise, I would not really go as far as to say it was a dark game, if you will.
No, I don't think so.
Like, because while it does have a rather dark post-apocalyptic premise, it's post-apocalyptic. You're not seeing the apocalypse, it's after it happens. And so I felt that this was the chance where, especially because Aonuma said in an interview that Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be darker, it's going to be a more grounded, sort of darker approach to what Breath of the Wild 1 was. I kind of wish that maybe this could give us a taste of that. I wish that this was maybe the warm-up, the transition period into Breath of the Wild 2. I was hoping that we would have a darker, grittier game, and I really feel like they wussed out on that. I think that they just completely were too scared to sell something that was really gritty, really kind of a darker tale, and they wussed out by giving us this alternate timeline thing, when I feel there's a way more interesting and compelling story in having the time travel give the player a false sense of hope just for it to be dashed in the end. I've been holding this in for so long. You don't understand. We call each other often, right? Yeah. We call each other often.
His hands are shaking. He's
he's got like a twitch in his eye.
Yeah, we call each other often, the three of us. And every time I get into this game, I either stop myself or them two stop me from saying things, because it's like, oh, we gotta save it for the podcast. I've been waiting to say this for so long. That is why I'm disappointed, is because there was a way more compelling story that I think could have been told.
You finally were able to put your finger down your throat and puke it all out.
Oh my god, yes.
I just want to say, back to like the blights again. The blights in what?
I give this essay. I give my whole essay.
We gotta move on to something else.
The blights.
Listen, the blights in Breath of the Wild, they were like these forces to be reckoned with, right?
Yep.
And I talked about this before on a call, but they were such like a force to be reckoned with. Like, they killed the champions and took over the divine beast. Like, these champions who are like supposed to protect Hyrule, they completely obliterated Hyrule's last line of defense, and then so Link is tasked with taking them down, and they're tough fights. I remember those fights being really like actually kind of hard to do.
In the original Breath of the Wild? Or?
Yeah. And then you have Hyrule warriors, and like you're just killing them
three times.
Times.
Not only did they prove themselves useless in the overall narrative of Breath of the Wild in that timeline, but they proved themselves useless 3 times.
Yeah. I was just like, oh man, like these guys aren't like the tough baddies that I remember them being. They're just like fodder for my sword.
Yeah.
I was like, come on.
Annoying in that one
They were
chapter.
so annoying.
In that one chapter, the second time you fight them, that was so annoying. I was like, this is unnecessary. Get out. Like, you weren't here in the original time, but whatever.
What a game.
Like, I kind of understand having you fight them again at the Hyrule Castle. Like, that sort of made sense to me. But then to fight them a third... that was the third time you fight them. But then the second time you fight them, which is the whole grassy field. Like, that was just unnecessary. When you're in the chapter where Link is supposed to be passing out, Master Sword's supposed to tell Zelda, oh, take him to the Shrine of Resurrection. Obviously, at that point, that's not what's. I think that's what also makes it more frustrating, is because even though this is an alternate timeline, we're still visiting the exact places during the exact points of the story in which the original Breath of the Wild memories take place. So even though it's an alternate timeline, you're still going to that field where Link passes out and Zelda does her Spirit Bomb explosion from Breath of the Wild 1. You're still going to Hyrule Castle toward the end of the game to fight Ganondorf, which is exactly what happens in the original timeline. You're still going to all these locations, the Great Plateau and everything like that after that chapter in the grassy field. It's like, I think that was the part that really frustrated me more too, is that we're seeing this alternate timeline play out, yet the story beats are still the same as the previous timeline. It's just that everything I've been wanting to see happen is not happening, and that's where I feel my frustration lies. And the last thing I'll say about it is, like, I want to premise that I 100% understand why people like this alternate approach. I think it's a clever idea. While I do think it still is them kind of wussing out from what we could have gotten, I do think it's a very clever idea that it does have a right to be explored. Like, I could see this being some sort of DLC alternate timeline thing, or if they advertise it as an alternate timeline, I think there is an argument to be had that they could have advertised it as an alternate timeline without spoiling the things that could have happened. Sort of maybe have a mystery of a do they die, do they not die, and that's where I think my frustration lies. It's just, I just really wish that I wasn't baited into thinking this was something just for it to not be that.
I feel like if they were to tell, like, oh, this is going to be an alternate timeline, people would automatically assume that they would defeat the Calamity before it happened. Mm-hmm. I feel like people wouldn't be like, oh, is it going to happen? Like, what's the point of announcing it's going to be alternate if the same thing happens?
And it's like, then why do it? It's like, then why do the timeline? Why not have the alternate timeline be some sort of DLC thing or something like that, where it's like, oh, here's a extended story, an expanded story, where because they did that in the original Hyrule Warriors. All the new characters in DLC for Definitive Edition, they added them and implemented them into the story and added new things, like the Linkle thing, the whole Linkle quest and everything like that. They added them into the story, and while it doesn't decanonize the Wii U version of Hyrule Warriors with being its own separate timeline, what it does do is show that they are willing to tweak the story in ways for future iterations, for DLC, if you will. And so I do wish that that's the route they took with this. I think this would have been really great if this were an alternate story. How cool would this have been? How cool would it have been? You've played the original Hyrule Warriors, and then you get this alternate story as DLC, and in it, you get to play as Tepa, Riju, you get all these, Yunobo, you get all these characters and all that stuff, and this is a whole alternate timeline of what was going to happen, and I think that would have been so cool. But no, we got this, and
I get all your complaints for this, and like wanting, that feels like another game on top of it. If you're just asking for like another alternate story with all these things, that's a lot to ask. And I feel like a lot of both your complaints are more of like what this wasn't.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like I know this wasn't. I'm not as bothered by the fact that it's an alternate timeline. I'm just accepting the fact that this is kind of just what it is.
Yeah.
And just like it for what it is. I understand that having it perceived as one way is kind of like lying, but like if they said that like that needed to be done, and I really don't feel upset about that, and I kind of just appreciate it from the game for what it was and what it tried to be, rather than all this stuff that it wasn't or like it could have been. Like, I understand the darker tone would have been much more interesting, but I kind of also felt like that doesn't seem likely. Just show them like all dying and stuff.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, and I should probably clarify that. Like, I do appreciate what they were going for, but it again just feels like I just can't help but feel like it was just like they wussed out. Like, they were like going to do something that would have been way different, really edgy, really ambitious, if you will. And I feel like they didn't do it. They kind of wimped out at the last second. And I'm not going to say there's anything inherently wrong with that, but I do feel in doing that they're cheating themselves out of what, in my opinion, is a more compelling story. And so, yeah, like, what we got is interesting. Again, I feel it deserved to be explored, but again, there is the argument that while, yes, this wasn't what I wanted, I mean, there you go, this wasn't what I wanted. Sequel trilogy was not what I wanted, to get back to the Star Wars references, but yeah, that's why. Like, I do appreciate this game for what it is, but I just, every time I'm playing it, I can't help but think of what we could have gotten. And I know Joey and I are probably gonna get guillotined for saying that, because I don't know if you've seen any of the, because I looked up so many Hyrule Warriors videos, like thoughts on the story and everything after I beat the game, and anybody who had like a differing opinion, it was like so many dislikes on their videos.
Well, you know,
everybody
that's the internet.
Yeah, it's so many dislikes. So I don't want to bring any hate towards your video, Joed. I hope that we were able to explain our opinions concisely enough where it's like people understand.
Yeah, hopefully we won't be put under the guillotine.
We won't be put under the guillotine.
And I'll be the one doing it.
Lorenzo's gonna be looking at us like, I was right.
You were right. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think, at least with my opinion, I think I'm definitely in the minority compared to what this general consensus. Because I think the general consensus, people love this game.
I haven't seen really.
Yeah, from what I saw,
to be honest, I haven't been actively looking up reviews for the game.
From what I saw, people seem to really like it, and I think rightfully so. Again, the characters are really fun to play as. Music's phenomenal. Presentation's great, unless the frame rate drops. But so I think I'm definitely in the minority when I speak. But that being said, that is my honest thoughts on the game, and I wasn't a big fan of it. I think I will go back at some point in time, just so maybe I could play as Ganon, because he seemed really fun to play as, and that is one of my biggest praises of this game. Like, it's such a controversial opinion, I know. Of all things I've said, this is probably the most controversial thing, and that is that I still think that Ganondorf is most likely the coolest Ganondorf we've seen in any Ganon depiction.
I'll go back and play it once the Switch Plus comes out and they got the 60 frames per second.
Yep.
Yeah, so because playing as Ganon destroys the frame rate with any of his supers.
Really?
Yeah. Like he has one where
I've not seen any gameplay because I want to be surprised when I play.
He has one super where he kind of does this move, I guess, where he summons a beast or whatever, and it just slows down.
Everything slows down.
Yes.
Yeah, because I've not looked up any gameplay, because if I'm gonna go back, I wanna experience what he's like for myself. But hold up, I'm gonna look him up right now.
This is still gonna be recording, right?
Oh yeah, it is.
Okay.
Calamity Age of Calamity Age.
Calamity Age of Hyrule.
Ganon, look at him. Look how cool that! Oh my god, that's so sick.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
He is pretty cool.
Looks like he's overflowing with power and he doesn't know what to do with it.
Oh my god, he's Super Saiyan Rose. I always, Lorenzo before this podcast said I always need to make it somehow related to Dragon Ball, and
he said something like he was eating meat with his hands and he was like, "Oh,
yeah,
I'm Broly."
I'm Broly
style. He had a fork right in front of him.
You two don't care, obviously, but I care about DLC.
I totally forgot.
Beetle.
Don't act like you're gonna buy it.
No,
you're not.
I'm not gonna buy it, but that's a totally good point.
Well, I think, and I've seen there's been some data mine stuff about some characters having additional voice clips that isn't using the game. I haven't seen who they are, but I feel like what's Aster? I feel like he's a good chance to be DLC, and Suga.
If he's DLC, I'll be mad because he should have been in the base game.
I think Aster and Suga are definitely going to be DLC. And I think they might wait till a bunch of Zelda 35 stuff comes out. But I feel like there's not going to be another story. It's just going to be here are the characters, here's a lot of challenges, and you don't get them with their full power. You still get them base set, and you get all the side quests too. I feel like it could be maybe something else to it other than just characters and challenges, but
they'll never do it. They're not going to do it. But hear me out. What if we get a whole alternate timeline, real timeline DLC story?
$60.
Is it? It's actually what happened.
Oh no!
We get to see them actually die. No. We get to see Mifa become sushi.
Oh, so Nintendo's never gonna show them actually dying.
No.
So that's why I was like,
But I mean, they really should though.
In Wind Waker, granted this is over almost a decade ago, but in Wind Waker, Ganon gets his head stabbed in
yeah, he's a bad guy though.
Yeah, there's blood in Ocarina of Time. We see blood. We see Link slash Ganon three times.
That's the bad guy. Yeah, no one cares. No one cares if he gets stabbed.
What about in Majora's Mask Anju Cafe? That's more so depressing than it is, I guess. But we see Link get fire envelops him. He dies. In Ocarina, if you die from fire damage while he's dying, the fire still is on him. It's dark. Yeah. And the screen goes black. Black is dark.
I'm talking main characters just getting stabbed or whatever. If anything, it would have just been
I'm telling you, Nintendo should do it. I think
they should. Don't get me wrong. It's not gonna happen though.
It's not gonna happen. But that's why I say they wussed out of it. They got listen. Listen, I know so many little boys and
Yeah.
girls are playing Zelda, right? So many little people that'll probably get, but this is the perfect chance because the little kids are not going to know what DLC. That's very pretentious of me to say. Never mind. But like, I feel like there's going to be a lot less of an audience of little kids that are going to play the DLC of a game and stuff like that. And so,
But you
DLC's
can't make
more
that
so.
assumption.
I can't
Yeah.
make that assumption. You're completely correct. I can't make that assumption. But I'm just saying, there's a wall that can easily be overcome, and it's like you don't need to see them getting stabbed, I guess, but like knowing that they die. Like, I mean, look at Rogue One.
We already know they're dead anyway.
Exactly, but I want to feel the emotion. I want to see what Link, Zelda, even King Rome, like what were they like in there when this happened? Like, how did Zelda and how did Link feel? Like, not that Link really emotes as
Not
much.
that they give emotion to Link ever.
But like a scene, right? Like, well, picture this. Like, what if there was a scene where, like, you know, after Mifa's dead and everything like that, after all the champions are dead, like, what if they die sort of, I know that the game sort of, not flat out implies, but shows you that they all die at around the same time, within moments of one another. But how powerful would it be if, like, let's say Link is going to save Mifa, right? You're going up there, you're trying to run to Varuta. By the time you get to go and fight the Blight, you like have Mifa in your arms and she dies in your arms or something. Like, you go to save Daruk and Daruk gives you like one last fist bump or whatever, and then he just passes away.
Like, kind of repetitive. You're just going to every single one. It's like, oh.
Yeah, but I'm just spitballing right
Yeah.
now. I'm just trying to say that, like, I feel that there's so many emotional moments that could make you appreciate these characters even more that we could have gotten, and I wish we got, but we didn't. And yeah, I'm prepared to be sealed like an Ocarina of Time canon.
You were more into the story than I was expecting you to be. I was expecting to be the one to be like,
love Zelda.
Yeah.
I love Zelda, and I wanted to see everything I love about Breath of the Wild enhanced. And I feel like the only thing I got that was enhanced from my nitpicks of Breath of the Wild was just the music, which I appreciate. I mean, the music's phenomenal. That's the one thing I'll always stand by with this game. And even Hyrule Warriors Original, like, I didn't like that game as much either, but the music is phenomenal in that too.
cool.
I can't believe I'm the only one who's played the original Hyrule Warriors. Hold up, let me go get it.
Why?
Why?
So you can see it.
I know what it looks like.
Oh, that's way here. Keep talking. I'm getting it. I'm finding it. There
This-
it is.
I don't know. I don't
What do you
really.
think of DLC?
I'm not gonna.
Since
play
that's what
it.
we were originally talking
I mean,
about.
well, there it
I
is.
kind of want to get.
It's got a
edition.
it's got a rough spot on the front of it that concerns
I've had it
me.
since like 2013 or whatever
Yeah.
it came out. 2014.
Yeah, it smells good.
Yeah, I've had it since.
That's a
2014.
game.
That's a game.
I
I feel
mean,
like they could have done. Well, this is gonna turn into a Hyrule Warriors, but I feel like they could have done more with her and like other
Who
games.
is that?
Lana.
I don't
Yeah,
even
she
know.
really is only in this one. And
I remember
Sia
when she
too.
came out, and I was like, "Oh, is she gonna be playable in Smash 4?" It was like, 'cause
She's gonna be
that
playable.
that was like back in the
Dude,
day.
this game made me want. This is the game that made me want Impa playable in Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Well,
This also has my favorite
Oh.
Zelda design.
I kind of feel like. Oh, also, you both know this. Like, I 100% in the game, and I
Yeah.
really like how the final thing you get in the game is the original Hyrule Warriors costume.
Oh,
for
yeah.
Link.
Yep, I heavily appreciate that.
That was sick. That was pretty cool. I mean, I did one challenge. I'm like, okay, I'm done.
I couldn't be bothered. Richie has been way more vehement about this than I expected. I was expecting to be the one completely bashing this game because, like, when I finished the game, I told Lorenzo, like,
He was on the call, and he was like, "Oh God, this sucks. Oh, is it over yet?"
Is it over?
because
Wah, wah, wah.
I said it before, but like as soon as like the other champions showed up from the future, I was just like, I was just playing it for it to be over. I completely lost any kind of investment that I had in the game.
Just stop playing.
But in terms of DLC, I couldn't stop playing. I can't leave a game unfinished because then I feel like I have to go back and
It'll
play
egg
it.
you on. It'll just corrode you forever in your heart if you just leave something like it's. I'm the
I
same
know.
way. I'm the
I
same
just
way.
can't do it if it be it like TV shows or just like literally anything.
There's
if
only
it's
one game.
What?
There's only one game in my history of playing games, my whole career as a gamer man, that I've left unfinished because I just don't even want to go back to it.
Kirby Squeak Squad.
No. Come on, you guys can
Kirby Squeak Squad.
Just said something
guys can
random,
guess
you
it.
dingus.
This game literally gave me depression on how absolutely boring it was. Come on.
Wait.
Avengers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, this game, I was so depressed on how boring that.
So
Well-
I think I know you want to end this. You're tired.
Do you still have stuff to talk
I
about?
just want to say, like, I think for DLC, it's just gonna be like Suga, Aster, maybe Purah and Robbie, because I don't see anyone else as characters, and just have that be a pack and some stuff.
What if they have like Elseworld Zelda characters in there? Like what if they just threw Skull Kid in the Breath of the Wild style?
I don't like. I see that, but I feel like they're trying to keep this within this.
Yeah.
because they already did that last time in Hyrule Warriors. They're not trying to like put another just play style in there.
Yep, that makes sense. All right.
Well, that was a fun discussion. This actually turned out a very interesting, fun discussion for a podcast.
Indeed.
I can't wait to edit it. Thank you, everybody, for listening to our rinky-dink little podcast.
Toph would not beat Gara in Death Battle.
The end. Goodbye!